Welcome to the Gym Plus Coffee podcast. Welcome to episode 12. I'm Ian, producer of the podcast and member of the Gym Plus Coffee community team. On this week's episode, co-founder Diarmuid McSweeney sits down with Mark and Molly. Mark is owner and founder of Wilder Wellbeing, a fitness group based in Salthill, Galway, which won Best Drop-In Fitness Class at our Make Life Richer Awards. His passion is to help people create healthier and happier lives filled with movement and energy, with a little bit of wildness sprinkled into the mix. Mark talks about his fitness journey, from struggling with depression and weight gain in his late teens, and how he used to go for a run with a packet of cigarettes in his pocket and a litre Lucozade in hand, and how he used to keep his hood up so no one would see him, to how he stuck with the process, educated himself in all things health and fitness, which helped turn his life around. Mark offers some great insights into the fitness world and shares that it's not all about pushing clients to breaking point, but sometimes a bit of empathy is needed to get the most out of people. Having been through a tough situation himself, Mark feels he's qualified to offer such support to clients, and it's this fine balance between pushing and empathy that makes Wilder Wellbeing so unique. If you're ever in Galway, you should definitely swing by for a class. Hope you enjoy.
Mark, very welcome to the Gym Plus Coffee podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. Delighted to be here.
Wilder Wellbeing won Best Drop-In Fitness Class at the Make Life Richer Awards. I think you were shocked on the night.
Yeah, and I still am when I'm hearing you say it out loud. I'm still like, oh, that actually happened. Yeah, it did.
I can't wait to dig in to understand what you've built there and why the community that you have built from the ground up is so passionate about it, and obviously you've created an unbelievable experience. We'll get into Wilder Wellbeing maybe in a moment, but I'd love just to start with you, and I think a lot of people would be very interested to understand your journey and how you got to Wilder Wellbeing and set that up. Do you want to give us a kind of a whistle-stop tour of what your journey into health and wellness and fitness has been like?
Sure. I suppose if I go back a good few years, like I was never active. I was never fit. I hated all forms of physical activity. I mean, I gave up everything, you name it. I've tried it: soccer, golf, hurling, horse riding, swimming, and I gave it all up. And it just, I don't know, was it a lack of confidence, a lack of assurance in myself that I never pushed myself at any of these things. And I would take it up, do a few rounds of it, and then leave it. And when I was, I suppose, in my late teens, my weight really spiraled out of control. I had no concept of, what a healthy lifestyle was at all. And I think, this is going back to around 2003, so it's a good while ago at this stage. But I think at that stage, there wasn't that emphasis on health and well-being, especially in people who are 18, 19, whatever, a bit younger. People weren't going to the gym that much, and, there wasn't a focus on it. And so it never was a priority for me. And I suppose it was maybe when I was about 19, 20, 21, I'd say, my weight really, really ballooned, and I was very unhealthy. My nutrition was mainly bird's eye, waffles, chicken dippers, sausages, stuff like that. No concept of what was good nutrition, what was going to be good for me to put in my body to get any nutrients out of, or to get any sort of benefits from. And it came to a point where I was very unhappy in myself. I was very insecure. I had a lot of body image issues. I was diagnosed with clinical depression. I dropped out of college. I had no motivation. It was a pretty dark time. And while that was happening, I got heavier and heavier and heavier. I got more insecure. I got less confident, and I became really physically inactive. There was no exercise in my life whatsoever. And I suppose it came to a point where I knew, I was put on medication. I was going to psychiatrists, counsellors, all that stuff, and none of that stuff was really, really working for me. I was still unhappy. I was still overweight. I was still physically inactive. I was still eating rubbish food. And it kind of came to a breaking point. I was just a couple of pounds shy of 18 stone, which is technically clinically obese. I'm 6'2". I carried it well. I could hide it. because of my height. And I knew something had to change, and I knew I had to kind of get on top of my health because my mental health had suffered so much. And movement was one of the key things for me. And how I started really getting more exercise and more physical activity, I was too self-conscious to run. I hated the gym. That was not my scene. How I started running, I think 5 minutes away from my house down to the diving towers in Blackrock and Salthill with a pack of 20 Marble Light in a Jan Sport bag, a oversized Jimmy Eat World hoodie to cover myself up, and a litre of Lucozade Sport. And I ran for 5, maybe 10 minutes, had a cigarette, drank half the bottle of Lucozade, and I ran home. And I'd wear the hoodie to cover myself, and I'd go at times when I knew people wouldn't see me. If I saw someone coming, I would cross that road. I wanted to be invisible. And I just stuck at it, because when I started moving, I felt a little bit better. And the more I moved, the better I felt. My weight started to come off. I started to get healthier. I don't want to talk about, weight as a very negative thing, because there's a lot of stuff attached to that, but I was unhealthy in my body. And the more I moved, the healthier I got, really, really slowly. People expect miracles, and there's a lot of stuff, especially online stuff, 6 weeks, 6-week programs, 8-week programs, and, look like this. It's all caught up in body image and body shaming, and it's a very, we said we'd talk about trends, it's a very alarming trend at the moment, but I did everything slowly. I lost 1 to 2 pounds a week, which is the most sustainable weight loss that an adult can have. I started changing my diet. I stopped having honey nut loops for breakfast and thought maybe a fruit smoothie might be a bit more satiating, but more nutritious. I educated myself about nutrition. I mean, the internet was such a resource for me. Men's Health magazine, stuff like that. I just started buying those and reading.
How did you do that? The way you even described it was almost kind of humorous, that you're kind of running down and you've got Lucozade and a packet of cigarettes, but you still took the step. So how did you go from being in such a dark place to even taking that step? Like what pushed you out the door, even to do it on your own, even if you were embarrassed to be seen?
Because I knew something had to change, and I was so self-conscious about my body. I knew if I could start with changing a little bit how I looked, or how I felt, more importantly, how I felt in my skin through exercise, I knew that my mental health would improve. I knew that I'd feel more comfortable in my skin. I knew that, I would be healthier all around. What was my other option? I didn't have another option. Continue going to psychiatrists, continue upping doses of medication, continue being sad, continue not going out with my friends, or hiding, or, it was that kind of almost, breaking point, if you will.
Yeah.
That something had to change. And, movement, I suppose, was my family were like, you need to exercise. And when people tell you that, and, sometimes people just go, well, screw you, I'm not. Don't tell me what to do. And
how old were you at this stage?
I was probably 21.
Okay.
I think I would have been 21, yeah. I suppose the main focus was my weight and my mental health. And I knew if I got my weight down, that maybe it would have a beneficial effect on my mental health. I'd start to feel more comfortable in my own skin. And I would start to, I suppose, reduce my risk of ill health long term.
Yeah.
So that was kind of where I came from. That was what kind of I backed myself into a corner. I had no other options.
Yeah.
Do I just get more unhealthier? Do I get more depressed? Do I, hide myself away from everyone?
Yeah.
And for me, the answer was no. I had to try something. And once I tried, and once I made a few small changes, and I started to see 1 or 2 pounds come off, or I started to see that my asthma wasn't as bad, or that my clothes started to fit a little bit better, that was motivation. That was what drove me on. Okay, I've done this much. If I've done this much, then I can do a little bit more. So I kept moving, and I kept pushing, and I kept increasing the intensity, or increasing the time of my movement, or the frequency of my movement. And soon, the hoodie and the bag and the Lucozade Sport were gone, and I wasn't running and walking. I was running for 15 minutes now, or 20 minutes. And I got confidence. My mood lifted. My medication was reduced, and then eventually it came off. I had no need at that period for that kind of support, you know, because I was supporting myself, I suppose. I found a way to support myself, and that was through movement.
Amazing. Well, congrats. That's a serious achievement. And bring us now from that point to, right, obviously you'd built up a passion then for different areas, and I presume it just became part of your lifestyle. How do you take the next leap to bring it from probably a lifestyle that you would integrate it into, you know, I suppose a hobby outside of work or whatever? How do you take the next leap to think, oh, I'm actually going to do this all the time?
As in for a living?
Yeah.
That leap was a really, really slow jump or a slow step. As I became more confident, I became more fitter, and I found I could push myself. I ran my first marathon in 2007 because the year beforehand, my sister had gone and ran a marathon, and we wouldn't be marathon runners, and you know, it wasn't on the radar. And when she just did it, she was raising money for Cree, the Heart and Stroke charity in Galway, and doing it with a friend. And when she did it, I was like, what if she did it? I can do it, you know? And it was so beyond me at the time that it scared me. When I signed up to do it, it was the New York City Marathon, and I signed up to do it in a stage where I hadn't even ran a 5K or a 10K, but I wanted to challenge myself. I picked a point in the distance and said, I'm going to try and get to that point. And slowly but surely, I did. I gave myself enough time to train. It gave me a focus. And once I got that first endurance event under my belt, my head switched to, okay, you've done that now. What's next? You know? So I ended up doing it another 2 times to beat my time. And then I looked at Gale Force and those adventure races and thought, well, if I'm running, maybe I can start cycling. If I'm cycling, maybe I can start swimming. And these were all things that were out of my reach for so long, that when I got that confidence and got that self-belief in myself, it opened up my eyes in a sense that I could look around and go, well, you know, that person's doing that, so why can't I? Whereas before I would have looked at someone running on the prom or cycling, and I would have gone, I don't know how they're doing that, I can't do that, that's not for me.
Yeah.
You know? So I started very small, and then it got to the larger side of things, I suppose.
It's time for a quick break. I hope you're enjoying the episode. Just to let you know that we have a special discount code for podcast listeners. If you go to our website and enter POD15, you'll get 15% off. That's POD15 for 15% off on all Gym Plus Coffee websites. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and turn on that notification button so you never miss an episode. But let's get back to the chat.
Mark, I read on your bio that you say that you hate going to the gym, and I actually love that you shared that because I think a lot of people could resonate with that. Can you explain what you mean by that, and then how you, for someone who's now in your position, but also maybe explain to us how you incorporate that into the experience and the classes that you provide people now?
Sure thing. I suppose, again, I'm going back a good few years when I was at my unfittest, unhappiest, you know, and heaviest and unmotivated. And I ended up joining a gym with my brother. He was very motivational and very, very caring, trying to get me involved, you know. And I joined the gym, and I was so insecure and so unconfident. And I didn't get the support that I needed from my trainer, quote unquote, so much so that, and it's not his fault at all. I used to go to the gym and I'd still be putting on weight. I'd still be, you know, but in my head I was like, I'm going to the gym. This is, you know, this is good enough. So it undermined I suppose, the attitude I had, and the environment I was in kind of undermined any physiological successes we were having or looking for out of training in a gym. And my experience was just quite negative. I didn't feel supported. I didn't feel motivated. I didn't feel challenged. You know, I wasn't getting results. I felt very unconfident. It was quite a competitive environment. It was quite focused on body image. And it didn't sit with me well. For me who was starting, for me who was overweight, for me who was insecure, a body image focused, competitive, macho environment was not for me. And that's why you read that on my bio, that I don't like the gym. Now, gyms are different now. There is still a lot of that element in gyms, and my ethos and my clients don't buy into it. It's a very unhealthy trend in currently in the fitness industry. This whole ridiculous amount of selfies in the gym and posting about it for validation, and I feel sorry for any of the younger kind of people in their mid-20s. There's a huge pressure for you to look like her, for you to look like him, and I take that out of the equation for my clients. I take that out of the equation for my classes. It is not about body image. It is about how you feel, and it's a long-term approach. Yes, if you train hard. Yes, if you eat nutritious food and be consistent and be regular with your training and nutrition, your body will have a physiological response. You will get more defined. Your body weight, which is not a set number, it's a range, will fluctuate. All of our weights fluctuate. You will feel better, and that's what I try to bring, and that's what I try to steer people away from. From my experience of being very overweight, very insecure, very unhappy, having a negative experience in a gym, so that's where that comes from. That's what kind of drives, I suppose, the ethos behind a lot of my classes and making people feel comfortable.
You mentioned earlier some struggles with mental health, maybe late teens, early 20s, and then you started moving, and that has helped a lot of things. Are there practices that you've implemented as well, or skills that you've built up to improve your mental health alongside a lot of the physical activity that you've been doing?
Sure. So as I said to you, I was first diagnosed with clinical depression when I was 19, and movement at that stage was a big part of, I suppose, my mental health recovery. There's been other periods of depression over the years, and physical activity, while being really, really beneficial, hasn't been the silver bullet for my mental health. It certainly forms such a foundation for my mental well-being, and always will. But what I have found over the years of having, further mental health struggles, and then looking at going, I went for my run and I still feel like crap, this is rubbish, Instead of doing that, I still kept my physical activity as consistent as I could with, very low motivation levels or whatever. But I knew I had to find other ways to support my mental health. I knew I had to, look at my nutrition. Am I eating healthy food, or am I eating, rubbish food that's making me feel bad, that's feeding into my lack of motivation to go get some movement? So I began to look at my nutrition, and there's a lot of evidence, emerging evidence at the moment about the link between our gut health and our mental health and the gut biome. But nutrition was one thing, physical activity was another. I did seek a bit of outside help. I'm a big fan of talk therapy. That helped for a while. That was good. Journaling is a huge thing for me at the moment, and meditation. And again, I don't want to sound cliched. I'll give you an example. Even this year, my mood was a little bit low, and I was kind of struggling for a while. And again, my physical activity wasn't doing what it was always doing for me. I knew it was important to keep it up, but I also knew for my well-being toolkit, I needed to find other avenues to support myself. So I kept up my physical activity. I kept up my time in nature. I began to take up journaling to see where, to explore myself, see where these thoughts are coming from. Why did I have that reaction to that? Why did I feel like that today? Maybe, to almost have the conversation with myself. My partner is an incredible support, and she has helped me to look at other avenues in terms of supporting myself. So the journaling would be a huge thing. And we know everyone talks about journaling and everyone goes on about it. They wouldn't if there isn't something behind it. There's no right way or wrong way of journaling. And just sit down, get your thoughts down on paper, leave it alone, do it again next week. That's how you start again, instead of going, I'm going to journal every day. One of the big things I use at the moment is stillness. Like yourselves, I'm very, very busy. I have a lot of, a lot of demands out of me, which I'm meeting, which I'm loving. I love my business, but at times I need to take a step back and I need to find a bit of space for myself where I sit down, the phone is off, I have a chair in my bedroom that faces out to a really nice garden, and I sit there, I close my eyes, and I just breathe. And it brings my heart rate down. It's a form of meditation. I mean, there's no right or wrong way of meditating, but what it does for me is it gives me a bit of space between the thoughts in my head. And the more space I can get between the thoughts in my head, the more relaxed I am, and the more calmer my nervous system will be. So finding out that can be 10 minutes. I'm not saying be a little Buddha and sit in silence for 45 minutes. 10 minutes of sitting, connecting with your breath. When you find you're thinking about that email or thinking about the Gym Plus Coffee appointment you have, just bring it back to your breath, you know. And they're two really salient examples I can give you from this year alone that I have in my, what I call my wellbeing toolkit. I still do my movement. I still eat as healthily as I can. I love a blowout. So does everyone. We have to enjoy all types of food. I sit down and I will journal, and I will sit down and I will be still. And that's what I do alongside. We all have to have multiple tools. There's not going to be one thing that will, you know, support you for the rest of your life or support you as struggles come along. So your ability to be able to draw on different avenues, be it your journaling, be it your yoga, be it your stillness, be it your sea swimming, be it you're talking to a friend, they're what's going to help you deal with the punches life will throw at you.
So tell us about Wilder Wellbeing. What makes this place and this experience so special?
I suppose, as I've discussed, I was not fit. A lot of trainers, or and I hate the term health coach in the industry. A lot of people who promote themselves as coaches and trainers, a lot of them would have been very fit during school. They would have played rugby. They always had this ingrained passion for movement and fitness and the body and all this, you know, medals and things like that. And I never had that. So what I bring to my work is a level of empathy that a lot of my clients can understand and can see and believe. Is, you know, they're all trying to get fitter, they're all trying to get healthier, they're all trying to feel better in their own skin. And I'd be very open and honest with them, and I would talk to them about my struggles, or I don't shy away from it. It's up on my website. You know, I put it there just so maybe someone somewhere can see that, oh God, this guy wasn't, you know, an elite athlete, or wasn't, you know, soccer player, rugby player, whatever in school, that he had to find his own way, struggled himself, and, you know, maybe then he can help me, you know. So I bring that level of empathy and that I suppose lived experience, you know, to my classes, to my wellbeing events, to anyone who needs it. And I've found that people get a good buzz off that, because I suppose they might look at me and think, oh, you were always fit, you know, and I'm like, no, I wasn't, you know, I was probably, you know, one of the most unfittest people, or, you know, or and unhappiest and inactive. And if I can do it, so can you.
Yeah.
So I try to bring that element, and I think that's what motivates people.
Interesting. And what's your go-to at the moment, or what's your favorite aspect? Because I know there's like HIIT classes, you've got a trail running club.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. So what's the thing that you're gravitating towards at the moment, that you're enjoying the most?
I absolutely love my classes, because the fun that we have is just off the charts. It's just hilarity erupts in my class. And like, I take my classes very seriously, and I take my technique very seriously, and I have no problem correcting people in a good, gentle way to keep them safe. But we also we know each other at this stage, and we can be a little bit loose in class and have a little bit of fun, and there's always slagging going back and forth. I get slagged all the time by my clients, and it just creates a very positive, open atmosphere. I think it allows people to be themselves, allows them to be comfortable, while getting a very effective workout. I do 6 HIIT classes a week. I do the trail run club is brilliant, because it's just something different. We're out in nature, and my focus of the trail run club was to do something different, to get people off the road onto softer ground, to rope in more, more stability muscles and ligaments for their body on the uneven ground, but also just show them that you live in a beautiful part of the country. You know, this is good for your mental health to be out here. It's proven the more time you spend in nature, the lower our heart rate, our blood pressure, levels of anxiety, depression, everything. So I try to bring that into it. You might laugh at this. My favorite classes of the week, I do 2 mum and baby postnatal classes, and this is something I never thought I'd get into, and I've trained for it, and it is. There are 2 of my favorite classes each week. We have so much fun. It's so different to the standard HIIT class, or you know, I mostly end up doing the class holding 2 babies on my knee, or, you know, to give some of the mums a break, a chance to do the workout, and they are kind of like the highlight of my week is just those 2 mum and baby classes, which is probably an answer you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
There you go.
And what's happening in Galway? What there's something special maybe going on there. Is there, like, even the location that you're in with Salthill saunas, all in Yoga Mara. There's lots of people that are there's a real tribe or community there that kind of seems to be all interconnected.
Well, I think because of the pandemic and people being forced to look around them a bit more and outside and think outside the box in terms of where they're getting their movement, you know, with all the gyms shut down and team sports gone and all that stuff, people began to realize, oh, hey, I live in a beautiful part of the country, you know, and we have access to space and fresh air and nature, and that's quite unrivaled in the country. And if you know, I think people began to realize that, and they began to realize as well, being forced outside during those years, no matter what the weather, especially the west of Ireland weather, that they can do it. And I think that has created quite a sea change all over the country, not just in Galway, but a lot in Galway as well, that people can gear up and get out no matter what. And that is all fed into the location where myself, Steve, Rich and Hannah are, and Ger, that it is outdoors, it is rugged, it is wild, but we're here and we can show people a good time, we can give them effective classes. And because our location is mainly outside but sheltered, it feeds into that ethos of getting people outside, of getting to experience their home city, and you know, get that fresh air, get the nature. So we're very lucky. We've an amazing thing going on there in terms of location and ability to deliver our classes.
Yeah, I was going to answer. I was going to ask you about what the trends around Ireland or how health and wellness has changed, but I think you've kind of answered it there. Yeah. You know, in that COVID has triggered something for people, and now they're continuing it because you just see it all over the country. It's like a real a rush to gyms, I think, but a rush outdoors, you know, and making those kind of physical activities part of a community, but outdoors. It feels like that way. My last question is, our whole passion, the idea that we've built Gym Plus Coffee on is to make life richer and to build a community around that. We named the awards after that. Make life richer. What does that mean to you, or what kind of runs through your head when you hear those words?
I had a good think about it when I got nominated, you know, and was getting the material from you guys to, you know, I began to question it myself. Is, you know, I can see how Gym Plus Coffee, how you guys are making people's lives richer. I can see, you know, and from all your speeches on the awards night, it really hit home. Like, your ethos is fantastic. You're living it. So before that, when I was thinking about, okay, well, you know, if I'm going to be nominated for an award that says Make Life Richer, you know, I started with myself as how my work is making my life richer, in a sense that the interaction, the feedback and the fun and the help that I can give to my clients just gets me up in the morning. I don't want to sound corny and you know, I don't want to be that guy. But so many of my clients have come to me and in ways that I have not expected, have told me the impact of attending the class. So the movement is only one part of it. It is the camaraderie, it is the community, it is the laughs, it is the slagging, it is the support that people are getting because they have turned up, they have made the effort, they have you know, set the intention with themselves to be down at my class at 6:45 on a Friday morning, and they come and they bring all that energy with them, and I just help them let it out in a fun and supportive environment. And the feedback that I get was when people leave class, and especially say the early morning ones, we know the evidence suggests that when you do workout, any workout, doesn't have to be mine, could be anyone's. We know when you move in the morning, your day is going to be better. We know that your nutritional choices are going to be healthier. You've better decision making. You've less stress. You've better chance of having a good night's sleep. But the feedback that I get when people leave the class is that they are buzzing for the day. You know, and great workout. Yeah, you pushed us, but oh my God, that was hilarious. Or I was worried about X and now I'm not. I'm not even thinking about it because it just came down and left it all on the mat. And I think beyond the physicality of a class and, you get more definition or, you know, beyond the physiological response to exercise, it is the psychological boost and the promotion of their mental health that I feel is carrying on throughout the day. That is making their life richer. And that is a lot of the feedback that I get, that people are buzzing, they're happy, they're more comfortable in themselves, clothes are fitting better. They're building more resilience because they're coming down, and I do not do easy. You know, it is beginner friendly, but I will get you in the door. I will build you up, you know. So they're buzzing after a good workout. They're also buzzing about the interaction and the people and the space, you know.
Amazing. Love that. Thanks so much for being here. Congrats again on the award.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And thanks for sharing your experiences. It's amazing to hear about Wilder Wellbeing.
Thank you so much. Hope to see you down soon.
You've been listening to the Gym Plus Coffee podcast. If you enjoy these conversations, don't forget to follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and turn on that notification button so you never miss an episode. Don't forget, we have a special discount code for podcast listeners. Go to our website and enter POD15 for 15% off. That's POD15 for 15% off on all Gym Plus Coffee websites. Thanks for listening.